Good morning, gut buckets.
From around the world to your backyard.
Zuzu Radio.
Welcome to Zuzu Radio. I'm your host, Brandon. I'm here with
Parrish Gibbons.
Parrish. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for inviting me, Brandon.
Yeah, this is exciting. It's so nice to hang out with you.
So cool.
Really, this podcast is kind of an excuse for me to talk to people I like, but that's not the only reason you're here, because you recently landed a pretty cool job. Is that right?
I think it's one of the coolest jobs.
Seems like it could be to me. What is it?
Executive Director of Hallwalls Contemporary Art Center in Buffalo.
Yeah, and this is like really new, right? As far as I understand, there was a period of succession, and then now you've just taken the reins as of August. Is that right?
Yes, as of August. And, the executive director, Edmund Cardoni, he announced his departure 2 years in advance. So as an organization, we had an opportunity that many don't, is to really plan and think about what we want and to build the infrastructure. And what we wanted in the long run was me. and we went with a succession plan, and myself and the team we have a really great momentum, and it's really exciting time there.
That's awesome. And it's really fun for me to see people that I used to goof around with rise into these positions of power. And there's a lot of satisfaction for me kind of knowing that Buffalo's in good hands, so I'm really glad you're in that position. And I guess one of my first questions to you is, back in 2007 when we were hanging out, did that young Parrish ever dream that you would reach this moment today?
I couldn't envision it, but yeah, I knew I wanted to be in the arts and culture. And one of my earliest desires as a child, I was visiting my aunt in DC and just seeing business women walk around with briefcases.
Yeah.
I was super inspired, I grew up in Elmira, New York, very small rural. And to see a professional businesswoman was so inspiring to me. And I knew that that's what I wanted. I wanted some sort of leadership position, and I wanted the creativity of my background to fuel that. But such a specific outcome, no, I don't think so. Even, in 2007, years later, I worked across the street from Hallwalls, and I'm sure we'll get into that. But even then, I couldn't have imagined I would step into this role. I'm so grateful.
It's pretty wild, the journey you've taken to get here, and definitely the synchronicity of those two places being across the street from each other is wild.
Mm-hmm.
We'll dig into it. But as far as I know, tell me if I have this right, you started off in psychology.
I did.
You ended up with business management.
I did.
And design.
Yeah.
And metalsmithing?
Yeah, that was under design.
Okay. Anything else? Any other pathways you took?
I have some certificates now, but those were later career, nonprofit grant writing things.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do see the synchronicity too. It just all comes together, right? Psychology, I bring that into everything. And I went into that as an 18-year-old wanting to know why we do certain things or why people do certain things. And that was at SUNY Fredonia. But I finished at Buff State with the business management degree. I think at that point I was working with a couple small businesses. I was also at the Village Beer Merchant. I have a beer background
that's right.
too.
Yeah.
We could talk about that. I'm happy to. And but I knew I wanted to be a business owner at that point, and I wanted to really give back to the community. In 2007, and I'm sure it's still here, but there was a big Renaissance marketing vibe going on in Buffalo. It was, we are coming back strong, support local. Buffalo First was really booming, Bidwell, all the concert series. And so there was this momentum, and it was hard not to want to get, caught up in that. And I was lucky enough to work for a really cool small business on Elmwood Avenue, which was just ahead of its time, the Village Beer Merchant. I was one of 4 people that worked there and as a key holder. But all of that to say is that when I wanted to get that degree, I knew business management was a safe way. I learned everything from economics to marketing, and then just communication skills. And that communication degree at that time too, so much was changing with social media, building websites. so that as a 21-year-old walking out of college in 2011, everyone thought you could do everything, you know?
The golden days.
Yeah, the golden days. They're like, oh, build us a website and create a social media platform for the whole organization. And, you know, I was the type of person that said, okay, and then did it.
Mm-hmm.
And that is really what has fueled my path, is having that kind of mentality, but just continuously taking all of my experiences into the next one.
Yeah, I talk about this with my students a lot, the idea that the path isn't clear. Mm-hmm. It's like you got to just ride it, you know, and then you bounce around to these things, and sort of a willful energy can push you through to the next thing. Oh, this worked a little bit, and I can take this with me into the next stop, and so on. And then gradually I feel like you develop the skill you just talked about, which is seeing something through to completion, which I feel like is really hard for a lot of people to plan, execute, finish.
Yeah. You know, I am a grant writer and have been for, I guess, over 10 years now, or probably closer to 15. And it makes you look at the whole plan holistically. It's like getting a business degree and looking at a business plan. You have to really write out all the details that you intend to do, from what the project or the event or the program looks like, or what the business looks like, but all of the funding streams that are going to come into place to make that happen, and all of the and the expenses and all of it, creating that budget. It's just, you keep going deeper and deeper into this project or this plan until you really do have a full product. And as a grant writer, again, say you submit that grant and you don't get it, you have this product to go shopping around with a little bit. You have a full idea to talk to donors or individuals or the community about. And, you know, that is a big skill of mine that I have developed just as a grant writer. And I have taken classes to kind of tune up my grant writing, but it has really been experience. I've also, and I think it's common in the nonprofit world, especially in the arts, that you're often a department of one, or you're a very small team, you're wearing many hats. And so me learning how to write grants and everything from marketing to creating a budget for a project and then years later for an organization, it really all stems from the need to do that, because you don't have the ability to pull in all of these resources like a bigger business or a bigger organization may. And so that really stems back to always working for these small businesses, small organizations, and that's what's made me a very dynamic not just employee and colleague, but a leader, because I have that mindset and I am conscious of the capacity of my staff and team and myself, most importantly.
Yeah. Oh my God. So many important factors. Yeah. And also, I think with grant writing, there's a certain level of perspective taking that you need to engage in, where you're writing this proposal, but you're trying to write it through the lens of the person you're asking for the funding. And I mean, that's a psychological task all its own, to sort of frame something the right way.
Yeah.
And there's so much to be gained from even just working it through in your mind. And then, like you said, you have this product that can now be shared around if the initial grant wasn't successful. I have so many questions about Hallwalls because I don't know exactly how it operates. Yeah. So maybe this is one, like, in terms of funding, is it a yearly thing where you're like, okay, we've got to get money in here? Or does it seem like your funding has reached a point where you're like, you have these trusted sources that are always going to be caring about your mission and pushing it forward?
I think that we will always have people who want Hallwalls there. And to even just widen the lens, Hallwalls Contemporary Art Center is a multidisciplinary art center in downtown Buffalo, which makes us very rare in the sense that we do film, music, literary, visual arts, performance art, theater. And so it is a multi-pronged mission and a wide scope. And so we can find funders and people who want to support us. But to answer your question as a whole, no organization lives in a safe zone. Hallwalls has been around for 50 years, and we have a very dedicated membership that is actually at its highest right now.
Oh, cool.
Our last members exhibition, we had almost 300 pieces. We were like 2 or 3 shy, which means gives me faith in just like a mailing. You can put out a letter to your community and 300 people walk in with pieces of art to put on the wall. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
But Hallwalls has had big ups and downs through its 50 years. It has had staff of up to 30, and we are a staff of 5 right now. There was a time in which there was weekly screenings, that there was weekly concerts. And you can say the same for many organizations across the country and internationally. What is so unique about Hallwalls is that it's still here.
Yeah.
Hallwalls is an artist-run space, which makes it even more unique. We have seen, just in the years that I've lived in Buffalo, so many come and go because it is so difficult. And like I started answering your question is that, of course, we can always find people who love and are buying into our mission and the work that we do. But unless you're really transparently telling the community, we need you to support us now, they don't really show up. And then when you do, they do. But there's donor fatigue. There's a lot of things like that to consider when you're targeting individual donors. Our foundations are really strapped locally, and we, as an under $500,000 organization, are kind of limited to who and where we can ask for funds. And so it's been a difficult, I'd say, decade or two for most nonprofits. The name of the game now, and what I bring to the table as a leader, is really diversifying those revenue streams. That's where my business side does come in. There was a time in the 80s and 90s where artists were taking New York State grants and buying homes and living off of that for a year or two to complete projects. And that is 100% how I wish it was and should have been. I don't look back at that and say, where is it now? Or I want that from the past here. It's just that we've seen so many cuts. And so it is hard to even compare ourselves and our history to what was, because right now, public funding is at its lowest. And that means both state and federal. The Hallwalls used to get upwards of $130,000 a year from the National Endowment of the Arts. The last grant we got from them was $19,000. And so you just creating a line graph, which we've done to show public funding and how low it's gotten, you don't have to beat a dead horse, but it's not there anymore.
Yeah.
And so I don't look at that and complain about it. I've been on advocacy panels for increased funding since my career started at Starlight Studio and Art Gallery. So almost 15 years that line isn't moving too much, and it's not going to be a drastic overnight savior for all of us. And so I don't say all that to give up and move on, but I do turn my head towards different priorities.
Yeah, you've got to, I guess, considering, especially with donor fatigue. One of the things that you brought up that seems so amazing to me is the idea, and it's a credit to the institution of Hallwalls, that when you put out the call, people are willing to answer it.
Yeah.
And it just shows it's been 50 years, right, in the community, and people have grown to trust and rely and believe in the mission of Hallwalls, and so they're there when you need them. But there's so many, there's just so much going on right now, so much that needs our attention, and I feel like people get sort of turned in a direction, and every once in a while you got to turn them back your way,
Yeah.
And so 50 years is no joke, though. That's through the ups and downs, that's really an incredible amount of time.
It really is. And for us to hit that year with renewed momentum is really exciting. Hallwalls prides itself on being a safe space for artists to bring experimental work, to bring boundary pushing work, to have these hard political conversations. That is the purpose of our space. Not every cultural organization allows for that type of dialogue or community engagement. And so we've really upped the ante in being that space locally. We have a lot of collaborators from academia to individual artists to advocacy groups who utilize our space to tell their stories. And that is one of my big focuses right now, is viewing Hallwalls as not just a program provider, but a venue for our community. There's so much going on in the community that people are looking for spaces. Everyone's trying to renovate a church or a building.
Sure.
I have a renovated church building, and so we would
ready and waiting.
Yeah, we would love to be the space for a partnership and a proper curation of the story that's trying to be told.
Let me pitch an idea to you, Parrish, based on what you're saying here. It's interesting to me. Hallwalls spans so many mediums, has come into contact with so many different artists, cross-disciplinary art is sort of what you're doing, you know. Do you guys ever establish sort of a collaborative network? Like, I'll speak in my terms. Like, there's this thing called a split EP when two bands are on the same recording, 3 songs from each one, and they kind of like draw on each other's audiences, and sometimes they inspire each other artistically that way. Is there like a version of a split EP that Hallwalls does with artists, sort of like putting them together and mashing it up?
I love that idea. And you know what? One beautiful thing about working at Hallwalls is that everyone tells you what Hallwalls used to do.
Yeah,
and,
lots of history.
I know that there was a project that I was super inspired by when I heard about it, and I want to bring it back. And it's very similar to your example, in which they took music and musicians, and then they took video artists and crossed them.
Yeah.
So someone's music would play over a video. I'm not sure of the level of collaboration, or if it was just curated on the back end, and that's kind of the fun part, to see how your music or how your video spliced up. But yeah, Hallwalls has a history of being very collaborative, and we have a lot of technology in our tech hub there. So when it comes to splitting and recording and mixing, we have all the fun stuff to do that.
Yeah.
We have a wonderful tech director right now, Tammy McGovern.
Tammy.
Yeah.
Tammy's the best.
She really is. We're grateful for her. She is an adjunct professor at Buff State and has spent many years with many organizations throughout Western New York, bringing really cool technology and screenings and film to those spaces. And so to have her in that hub right now has been a really special time for me, too, to learn from her. And I know that she's been bringing a lot of new curated films and kind of fun performance art that certainly crosses genres. I'm like, do I put this on the performance, music, or art page of our website? You know?
Yeah, it's a good question to have to ask, I guess.
Yeah, and that's honestly what most of our programming falls into, and I'm really happy about that.
I got to tell you, my experience running a film festival of my work, it was like a 10-year retrospective at Hallwalls. Was just so awesome, mainly because of the team that was there that I felt supported by.
Yeah.
You know, when I walked in and Tammy was helping me get set up and she was talking about what my expectations were, it just felt like she really cared about my work. And there are some spaces that you bring your work into that don't always seem so open and receptive and supportive. You know, so you guys really curate the right element, the right atmosphere there.
Yeah, thank you. I think that comes from being an artist-run space too.
Yeah.
You know, I think we've, as artists, walked into spaces and didn't walk out feeling like all the work I just did was appreciated.
Yep.
And we do not want that to happen at Hallwalls. You know, we know what it takes. Like, even our sound guys, it's so important to have a sound guy that's also a musician too.
Yeah.
Because sometimes if they're not, they're grumpy and they don't understand why you're asking for all of these things.
Oh, the grumpy sound guy. Yeah, it's a classic.
I know, you gotta throw them in once in a while.
All right, well, let's go zero back to the beginning of Hallwalls history here. It was founded by a group of art students.
Yeah.
Is this true? It was inside a repurposed ice packing warehouse on the west side?
Yes, it was on Essex Street. So you can picture where Essex Art Center is, where Bika is, where 19 Ideas is. That is where the original Hallwalls was. And so that was an old ice house. Artists had studios there, including Robert Longo, Cindy Sherman, Nancy Dwyer, Charlie Clough, and Larry Lundy and others. But that space, they literally knocked down the walls to create hallways for exhibition space.
Oh my
and
God.
So, they knocked down the halls to create walls, and they became hall walls.
Amazing, yes.
Yeah, and they had a member show prior to incorporating, and so that's where we anchor our anniversary, is that member show. And so that was in 1974, and then they incorporated later in December of that year. But they have seen a lot of movement, and so you can still go to that space and see really contemporary works, young people doing cool stuff. It remains as it was, and I love that. It's like walking back in time, even though I wasn't there, but that's what it was intended for. But then Hallwalls moved around Buffalo rather. It was in the Tri-Main building for a period of time. It was on Main Street in the Theater District, and actually it's kind of across from where the hostel would have been. You can still see the blue neon light on the side of the building that says Hallwalls. If anyone wants to go take that down and drop it off, that's fine.
Little side quest there.
Yeah, side quest.
It's amazing to think that this started sort of as a repurposing of an industrial. It sounds like the most Buffalo thing ever to me.
Yeah, so Buffalo.
I'm wondering how do you think the spirit of those founders influence Hallwalls today?
Oh, I think it is alive and well. I think they wanted a space for artists to, like I said before, feel space to be really experimental, to walk in and feel like this is something I've never seen or been around before, creating that experience in addition to just the show or the event or the program you went to go see. We've been in our current space for about 20 years. It was in 2006 we moved into the corner of Tupper and Delaware, the church, as it was called when it was reopened. And I feel like that beckons back to the founding too. We were the initial tenants of this space, and so we worked with the owner, Scott Fisher, with the city of Buffalo to bring back this preservation project. And once again, we're putting up walls, we're creating space that we know was going to be utilized by thousands and thousands of artists. And just in the past 20 years, it has certainly. We have a cinema space there, we have our visual arts gallery, and we're lucky enough to have access to two great music venues, the Ninth Ward and Asbury Hall. So when it comes to our programming, we have a really unique space in Buffalo to do it all.
Yeah, I was sort of thinking about this. There's Babeville, right, which includes Ninth Ward, which is also Asbury Hall, and Hallwalls.
Yeah.
It's like this factory of art.
Yeah, I do a lot of wayfinding support when people walk in there.
Right. Where am I?
Yeah, I'm like, just go to the gallery. It's fine. No, it's a really wonderful space. Buffalo, people are familiar that Annie DeFranco was on the ground level of bringing that space back.
Was she, did Hallwalls start the process, or was she there at the beginning, or how did that correspond?
Her and Scott Fisher initiated this project together. Okay. And so we were that anchor tenant that, really put the stamp of approval on this project, saying, we're going to bring programming to this space. We're going to bring people here. We're going to support the church in their efforts to be a music venue, because that was the goal at the time. And it's continued this day. I mean, we're still partners. I mean, we are a tenant of that space, but we remain, big partners. And so it is, they go by Babeville now. That's the space. They have other nonprofits upstairs, actually. It's Asbury Arts Collective is a branding that they're working on right now. You'll hear about that too. But there's other tenants up there, including the Buffalo Philharmonic Chorus. Of course, Babeville's ticket office is there. Buffalo Stringworks has an office up there, and so there's a nice little hub of things going on there. Yeah.
When you get all those people in a room together, they might not be working on the same thing, but I imagine that the energy influences every project that rolls through.
Oh, yeah, for sure. We all have a shared calendar, and that's where we really talk, because when it comes to all of those spaces, we all have access to those spaces. I mean, the gallery and the cinema is ours, but we, try to be very collaborative, and the goal is to bring people to downtown Buffalo to experience all the programming we have. Yeah.
And with 50 years of service, you must have this incredible archive of material. Do you spend time cruising through it?
Oh, yeah. Hallwalls is rare, again, in the sense that they've done such a good job with the archives. Really, from day one, they have been collecting and saving and storing. The first 30 years of Hallwalls' physical archives, and by that I mean, some posters, but video, film, that type of that needs climate control is at the University of Buffalo's poetry collection. It's stored there. And then the next 20 years going forward is at Hallwalls. We have a huge physical archive. And that's a big thing of what Hallwalls does. So we work with a lot of journalists, artists, anybody who is researching somebody who's gone through our paths will contact Hallwalls. and ask if we have the original postcard, the catalog, things like that. And the answer is we do.
Yeah,
And
got
it is
all.
just such an amazing part of what we do is this continuous saving and archiving of everything and also digitizing it. We have a huge digitizing project that is, of course, always ongoing, but on hallwalls.org, it's called Timeline. You can go in there, type in an artist's name or a year. You can see everything that happened that year.
Oh, that's
so
cool.
you could really go to hallwalls.org and type in the year you were born and see what we were doing every day
That's
of that
incredible.
year. Yeah, and so, of course, not all organizations do that, and it is close to impossible to go backwards and do that if you're an older organization.
Yeah.
But Hallwalls has really prioritized that as something really important, especially I'm sure you could relate in the music and film world, but if it's not captured, it didn't happen, you
Yeah.
know? And so we really believe in filming things. We believe in filming our events. If you have a concert at Hallwalls, we're filming you. We're taking pictures and we're adding that to our archive.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
There are a lot of organizations that maybe have this stuff, but I can't think of any that really have the accessibility that you just laid out. To be able to type in the year, the date, and see exactly what was happening that's astounding with that
Yeah.
much material. So as you've gone through this stuff, is there anything that's jumped out and like completely surprised you or like totally influenced you? Like, wow, what is this? I need to know everything about this.
Well, I'll say I've been at Hallwalls for almost 3 years now. And so I was lucky enough to be here for our 50th anniversary celebrations, which included a retrospective at the Buffalo History Museum.
Oh, cool.
So we had on display in that downstairs gallery space 50 years of our archives. So it was posters, letters from the founders, correspondences, board minutes, like just the most bizarre, cool things. And that's what really inspired me. And I'll even pause there and say what's really important about me loving Hallwalls and being there is that I loved Hallwalls before I worked there. I already admired Hallwalls and was down with the programming that they're bringing to the community that I lived in. But when I started working there and got to love it through the lens of the staff that has been there, and the staff is highly retained. The curator's been there for 25 years. The music director's been there for 20 years. My executive director was there for about 40. So these people have stayed there and loved and know Hallwalls so well. So I had that unique experience. But being able to celebrate the 50th with Hallwalls and see that exhibition and put that together and going through the archives like we're talking about to create the exhibition was just such a special experience because, yes, they have done so many weird, wild things. Hallwalls was responsible for Artists and Models, which was a big event that took place throughout, I'd say Western New York because it was all over the place, but they did those types of big parties in Buffalo. They had a series that kicked off in the 80s called the Ways in Being Gay series. And I am super inspired by that. I've already been in talks with other organizations to bring that back, but it was a 3-week festival of film, music, visual arts, you name it, all the multidisciplinary art forms that Hallwalls proudly presents, but by gay men and women. I mean, this is the 80s too, so we of course had our bi and trans, friends of the community there, but it just wasn't as widely promoted.
Yeah.
But our marketing for it would, of course, say otherwise. All the marketing was very forward, very fun, just kissing butts. It looks like it could have come out today.
Yeah.
And to look at that, those flyers and the event photos and all of it, it's just, it's things like that I'm so proud to be not even just a Hallwalls member, but of course just an employee and to be a part of all this rich history. And I really want to keep pushing that type of mentality forward. And that was a big partnership. I mean, like I said, that was a 3-week festival. And so I think about what that would look like in Buffalo today and who could do something like that, regardless of the topic, to have the stamina to do 3 weeks of programming
that's a big
every
lift.
day. But there's just the archives are endless, and everyone can explore them on the timeline and be inspired like me, and
That's awesome.
then bring it up to Hallwalls and bring it to my attention.
Yeah. Celebrate it.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about Edmund.
Yeah.
Because 40 years, right? 40 years is incredible. And you were in a unique position. Sometimes executive directors, they never cross over. One's out, one's coming in. And you had this time you were working there, you were employed there, but then you sort of moved into this track where you're like, okay, I'm getting ready to take the reins.
Yeah.
Is there a way to kind of distill down, like, I know this is probably really hard, but a guiding principle, something that Edmund represents to you and what you really want to carry forward as you take on the role?
Yeah, so many things. But one thing that he was very strict on, and I respect, is that the programming is done by the staff. You know, you hire a curator, they're going to choose what goes on the walls. You hire a music director, they're going to choose what goes on stage. Same with all of the departments. He was a really big believer in the staff having the power when it comes to programming. I've been with organizations where, and Hallwalls isn't like this too much, but I've been with organizations where the board really controls the show.
Yeah.
Or the community or the volunteers really control the show. And you sit there as a staff and you're like, why am I here? I thought I was hired because I'm bringing my ideas, my mindset, and my background to this decision making, and it's just being wiped away. And Ed was very conscious of never letting that happen. And so I really respect and keep hands off when it comes to curation and what happens at Hallwalls. I think we have a very talented staff. We talk about everything as a team. And I think that's something that's really important to keep forward, because if that's what's been happening the past 40 years he's been there, to switch that sounds a little risky. You know?
And if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
That's really what it is. And I think that's important for any sort of transition or succession, is to not really come in guns a-blazing too much. You really got to respect the process and the team. And the board is the team, of course. But there's so much policy work that needs to be happening during a transition and all of that right now, that I'm really grateful for their focus on that right now. And that I'm blessed that Hallwalls has a really talented staff to really execute strong programming.
Yeah. And speaking of just lessons learned and lessons to carry forward, maybe now's a good time to sort of circle back to Starlight and Keenan Center.
Yeah.
First of all, what do you think it means that Starlight is right across the street from your dream job? Why is that like that?
I think about it a lot. I will tell the audience that I found Starlight Studio and Art Gallery's job for an administrative assistant on Craigslist. And it has launched my life in ways I never thought it would go. It was literally this 2-sentence, hi, we need an administrative assistant, gallery, people with disabilities. And I was like, oh yeah, I want that too. But I remember walking into Starlight, and so that would have been 2011, and doing the interview and just knowing. You know, it's like when you are equally panicky, but at home at the same time, and you just know you're in the right space in the world.
Yeah.
I knew that when I walked into Starlight. And an important thing about starting my career at Starlight was that nobody had to tell me the importance of the arts and how it impacts people, and the importance of people having access to the arts, because walking into Starlight and seeing 40 different artists, adult artists with disabilities, creating the most amazing art you've ever seen. And Starlight's not a program where everyone's facing the same way and drawing the same pineapple. This is an open art studio with a kiln, with stop animation, with access to all types of mediums, with teaching artists floating away, assisting, not necessarily instructing. These are adults who are artists who happen to have a cognitive disability. And it is this program and the art that they're making that fuels their life. It is not the best part of their day. It is the best part of their week or a month if they make it to program that month. And Starlight is such a beautiful program, and they just celebrated 20 years. And yeah, so that is the right across the street from Hallwalls. But I had a couple other jobs in there. I stayed with Starlight for a long time, and one of my coworkers there at the time, I remember when I first started, she was like, "Oh, you're not going to be here very long." And I was like,
Ominous
"Why?
words, yeah.
Why do you mean that?" And she was like, "I don't know. I just feel like you're going to move on." And I was like, "I can't believe she'd say that to me." But within a year, I did get a promotion and worked for the agency that runs Starlight. So Starlight is a program of the Learning Disabilities Association of Western New York, and I became their director of community relations for the whole agency. But I stayed at Starlight. I mean, that was my focus. I kept an office there, and then I would go back and forth. But I did in about 5 years with the Learning Disabilities Association, and then I worked for Art Services Initiative of Western New York. And so Art Services Initiative is a grantee, an advocate, a professional development opportunity and space for artists in Western New York. When I worked there, I was running the Arts Access Program, which was very fitting. It was giving people who were on like SNAP or received federal subsidies free admission to Western New York galleries and museums and things like that. So it was a program that ASI launched, that I ran. But that's also when I learned more about grant writing. I was on the back end. We were giving out grants to organizations and to artists. And so that was a great experience. Around that time, though, or right prior to that, I bought a house in Lockport, New York. Mm-hmm. They were giving away houses back then. No, I bought a great home in Lockport. And so I was commuting. I don't mind commuting. I like being a 2-county worker. I think it makes me a better leader and colleague to have a wider mindset. But I took a job closer to home for about 4 years at the Keenan Center. The Keenan Center in Lockport is a community center, but it's a gallery. They have a theater, and they have a big sports program. So it was really across the board. At that time, it echoed and was preparing me for Hallwalls in ways I didn't quite realize. I had an executive director who was ready to retire, but wasn't walking out, but mainly because COVID happened. I was at the Keenan Center during COVID, and we really did a lot of pivoting. That's where I myself learned how to do film editing. I was doing gallery tours and posting them online, and then doing my own concert series that were live streamed. I learned how to live stream, and we created an outdoor music series that the Keenan Center still does called Music in the Gardens. And so we made a lot of progress there. And me for my career, was a great time for me. That was a lot of my big projects. I did a capital campaign, created this outdoor play space. It was just a really rambunctious time for me career-wise.
That's when I knew you were a big deal. Because when I came out to see you at Keenan Center, and first of all, I saw the venue, and I was like, wow, this is an incredible space. I love the space. And everybody's sitting into their seats, and the lights come down, and then you get up on stage and address everybody on the mic. And I was like, whoa, I know her. And it just seemed like you were poised for big things at that moment. And it's funny to hear you say that there were moments where it was echoing the upcoming experience, because I often find that there are times where I'll start to go in a direction and it's like I need to take a leap of faith to go that way, but then I hit a dead end. But somehow just by taking the leap, it opened up this other door, so I have to sort of like swerve.
100%.
And I always trust in those moments, like I'm going to aim for this, and if I don't get it, I'm going to trust something else is going to be there. Were you feeling that way at that time?
I felt exactly like that. I loved Keenan. I have I don't even know if we got into it yet. I have a 9-year-old daughter.
Right.
But she continues to go to programming there. They have a great theater program. Every position I've ever left, I still walk in the door and chat. I just have left that type of work legacy. But the Keenan Center, I was okay there. It was a big project. Going through COVID was a lot of leadership fatigue. I was assistant director at the time of, my last years there. And I got a phone call one day in my office. I'm like looking out the window at Keenan Center, and it's Hallwalls staff. And they give me a call. And it was a woman who was leaving her development communications position. She shared that she was leaving, that Ed's going to retire soon. We don't know what's going on with Hallwalls. Would you come down for a conversation? And I was like, what? I don't know. I have like a good job right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, as you described, it was like this door opened that I never even saw there. And I walked right through. I went down there. I met with them. I was very open about what was going on with me personally. I was very at capacity with work. I was sitting on some boards at the time. I was a mom. I was very stretched thin. And I was like, do I really take on this longer commute and this perhaps uncertainty about what the next couple of years look like? And I said, yeah. And I could not be happier. I mean, it is so authentically me to be at Hallwalls. The type of work that we do, the programming, it is just so fun to be there. Every artist that I meet, I really just soak it in and listen to them. And that has happened plenty in my career, but never felt so aligned. And, that phone call was about, like I said, 3 years ago. And I didn't know where it was going to go. There was no guarantee of like, oh, you come to Hallwalls and then you're going to just move right up the ladder. It was, I had to figure out if I could trust myself there. The board had to get to know me. The staff had to get to know me. And when we got closer to Ed retiring and I started writing more grants to support the transition, because you need money when somebody leaves. And we brought on consultants to do a full analysis of Hallwalls and where we were at. And they did a full thorough check of me. I gave them access to all of our donor information and our years and years of 990s and our audits. And she gave me, this consulting organization gave us metrics about ourselves and me that I didn't even know about myself. How I've brought up our donor retention from a 30% to a 50%, which she said was nationally high and kind of unheard of around here. And I really attribute it, thank you, but I really attribute it to just being consistent with following up and thanking people and reaching out to people and just having that continuous momentum that I just don't think was really happening before. And so it has been, that's my, fast track to Hallwalls, but it's been I did not know where the door was going to go. And every day I'm just more and more sure and more comfortable that this path really led there. But as far as the intersection, Tupper and Delaware, when I first pulled into my spot on my first day at Hallwalls, it's like right next to where I used to park 15 years ago when I started at Starlight. And
That's so wild.
It really is so wild. So I don't know. I think about the intersection now. I'm like, I need to do a public art project in this intersection. This is like my intersection.
Yeah. Some sort of portal into the universe there for you.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, it's been a beautiful path, and I'm just super grateful to be where I've landed.
That's really cool. Yeah. Well, let's talk about your daughter. Can we say her name?
Yeah.
Madeline?
Madeline.
It's interesting to hear the story you told about being, was it in D.C., you said? Washington, D.C., and seeing powerful business women. And now you are that example for your daughter.
Oh, yeah.
And do you see her sort of processing similarly to what you did at that time?
Oh, yeah. I also can't go anywhere without knowing somebody, and she can't handle it. She was like, "Why'd you know that cashier?" I was like, "Oh, well, I don't know. He was in a band a couple years ago. He's super nice." But
does she think of you like a celebrity? Like everybody knows my mom.
I think she thinks I might be a little famous, and I'm like, no. I just have worked a lot. But no, she's so amazing. She's 9 years old right now. And so she herself is into the arts and theater and dance. She does all of that. And so I think what's the most important part is that she sees the long road for those things. Being at Hallwalls, she sees dancers, musicians, artists make careers out of what they're doing. It's the hobby conversation has not even come into the home. This is vocational work. This is practice. This is training for what you want to really perfect and do well later in life. And she really catches on that there's a path for those things. Also, Hallwalls is very forward thinking and contemporary and a little risky sometimes. So she's seen some interesting exhibitions in her young years.
Yeah, mind-opening stuff.
Yes. She's like, why are all the boobs on this wall? I'm like, well, we thought it'd be nice to just kind of put them together,
It kind of reminds me of what it was like to see a movie that you maybe shouldn't have seen at that age. But because you shouldn't have seen it, it impacts you and sort of like burns into your brain a little bit differently.
Yeah.
Such a novel experience. And so to be in proximity to all these incredible artists at such a young age, I can't imagine what she'll be doing when she grows up and wants to explore her own art. Having such a solid foundation of, in her childhood. That's wild.
Yeah.
Can you even project into the future? Do you see Madeline when she's 29?
She says she wants to be a teacher, actually.
Oh, wow.
So I could see her. She could be a good leader. When she gets bossy, I tell her, stop being so leadery. And so, girls are told they're bossy a lot when they are really just trying to share their ideas really excitedly. Mm-hmm. And I tell her that she needs to, be more town hall about it.
More town hall. Yeah. I love these terms.
Yeah, listen to other people too.
Yeah.
I mean, young people, it's just a wild ride. It's wild to live with a 9-year-old in general. She's into video editing. She does good video editing already.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, things like CapCut and stuff like that.
Technology for young people is just like second nature.
She just picks it up and does it.
That's
she'll show me stuff, and I'm like, can you do that for Hallwalls, actually?
I'll put you on the payroll real quick.
How'd you make the logo wiggle like that? No, it's awesome. It's been fun. Big blessing in my life. And the community likes that too. And what's fun about Ed and I's stories, they are similar too. He actually started in his position as executive director at, I think, 35, which is the age I started at Hallwalls. And then he was there for, like I said, like 40 years.
Yeah.
Or like close to 40 years. And he had his daughter a couple years into being the executive director too. And so it's just so much time has gone by. Yeah. And his daughter is this amazing environmental advocate in Philly now too. She's just so cool. But I think about how our paths echo is that this next executive director has this young girl running around bringing her friends to all the events and things like that. And it is a really important part of being a leader is to have that connection to youth, whether it's through work or more personally, like being a parent. I'll say that being a parent is definitely the biggest contributor to making me a good leader. It has allowed me to be patient with people. It has allowed me to be more open-minded in the sense that I thought I wanted her or this to go a certain way, but since I eased up and it went a different way and it's better, I need to remember that. It's just those types of interactions with being a parent is really important. It's a perspective that is such a gift, and to take that into leadership or into the workplace or into your own creative work, you're going to find yourself operating at a deeper level for sure. Yeah.
I hang out mostly with 13 to 18-year-old kids, and they're right in that like rageful, I'm trying to be an adult, but no one will let me place. And so it's hard. Teaching someone like that is a really interesting experience because you have to teach without teaching. Mm-hmm. You're sort of like loosely holding on, you know? Mm-hmm. And same thing as a filmmaker. Like there are so many times where I'm planning this whole thing out for months in advance. I get to the location and it's raining, or it's like something has to change, and then you realize the change actually made it better. I stressed in the moment. Maybe I don't even have to stress in the moment because I can trust that what will happen in the end is what it should have been always.
Yes.
So I definitely feel that. How do you sense that your own creative work has changed since becoming a mom? Planet P, we should just say.
My art medium, my main one would be analog collage. Mm-hmm. Very meditative work for me, honestly. And I think I really re-picked that up in the past 4 or so years. I come from artist parents. My dad is a collage artist. My older brother does some great collage work as well. And so it's always been around me, but I love flipping through the old magazines. That's what I focus on, is Life magazines, old National Geographics. That in itself is just calming to me, even just with the state of the world. Maybe calm and panic, but I see that we've been here before so many times. When you are a collage artist, you look through old magazines and you see articles that could be written today. Palestinian like refugees being killed by Christian militia is on the front page of the last Courier Express in Buffalo newspaper. And I actually have that at my house too, but it's framed. And it's just life really repeats itself. And as a collage artist, I see that a lot. But when it comes to blending into motherhood, it kind of echoes to what we were saying before, that you can't really teach and instruct kids. More so, you have to be the role model. Kids don't listen; they copy.
Yeah.
And so if
said.
if I want Madeline to read a book, I better sit down and read a book too, and then maybe she'll pick it up. But for me to just tell her to read and I'm walking around the house doing whatever, it's not really fair.
Sure.
And that's in the workplace too, is that you have to be that role model. Adults don't really listen, but they copy, So if you're sitting there and you're taking this project really serious and you're not, talking negatively about team members or partners and, bringing down that momentum and just being a forward-looking thinker, you find other people at the table doing the same thing. I've certainly been at tables where someone will take the wind out of all of our sails, and it's really important to be that steady focus. And I gained that knowledge and that patience from motherhood for sure. As a collage artist, it's very technical. It's very patient work too, very slow cutting and things like that. But my collage work is my me time. It's my meditative alone time, and it translates into kind of dystopian, spacey, futuristic images that probably say more about my brain than I could say about my brain.
Like all great art.
Yes. It's been a really fun time for me as a creator. I'm feeling very motivated.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, as you're gearing up for your 40-year run as Hallwalls executive director, I'm going to ask you an age-old question. If you had unlimited resources for one new Hallwalls project, what would it be and why?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I love our space. I talked it up, but a 50-year-old organization should have its own venue. I think about that in the sense of having no limitations on what we can do. And I mean that respectfully as a tenant, but, I know that organizations that own their own space really own their own identity and their own programming in ways that you just don't when you're a tenant. For us to operate and be there whenever we want. For us to have a late night show, for us not to fight over a space because we're all trying to succeed in bringing culture to Buffalo. It's just, even just with, calendar alignments. And so, if we had some magical seed donor, Hallwalls would be a really great candidate for running a successful art space in Buffalo that was like solely our space. But that's not to say that that's happening anytime soon.
It's good to dream though, right?
Yeah, it is good to dream. And I would also say that the space that we have is, I view that as a sustainable space that has a lot of love from the community too. That's such a unique, cool space for us to be operating in. And it's such a rarity when I go to other cities and things like that to see this old 1800s church standing in downtown Buffalo among all the white windowed buildings. It's just such a gem. So I'm happy for us to also be that tenant. And if there's an opportunity to just like revamp or grow that space, that would be awesome too. So yeah.
Wow.
We always just want more space,
Yeah, to control your own destiny a little bit.
My curator wants like a couple more walls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a really cool place to leave it. Parrish, it's been such a joy to know you all these years and to see all the success you've had and everything you've done for any community you've been in, it seems like. I know that Hallwalls is so lucky to have you, so thank you for taking time to come and talk about Hallwalls, and hopefully, if anything, this just generates a little more action around people going there and seeing what you guys are up to.
Yeah, thanks, Brandon. Yeah, Hallwalls is home to all, so come on down.